So it's pretty much all about the buddy read this month. Hey booktube friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to pop in really quickly and just share about some of my recent reads. The first book I want to talk about was a complete impulse pick that I chose from the Libby app as an audiobook, and that is The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. Quite honestly, I chose this book because it had a really cute cover, and I'm just starting to get into romances a little bit, so I thought this would be a good pick, and it wasn't. I don't really know quite yet what I'm looking for in a romance, but I know this is not it. Now, that's not to say that this was a bad book, because there were actually some things that I really thought this author did well. Essentially, the main character in this book, Lydia Bird, suffers the tragic loss of her fiance on her 28th birthday. And this sends her into a downward spiral into all the stages of grief, and I think the author really portrayed the grieving process spectacularly in this book. She really, I think, made you connect to this character in that. So I really felt some empathy for this character, but a lot of this book was actually dream sequences, and I don't want to spoil too much, but I will say that these dream sequences are precipitated by taking sleeping pills to help her sleep. And so it's never quite clear whether this was an actual alternate universe or if it was just some sort of hallucination brought on by these sleeping pills. So I didn't really like that part particularly, and the love story in this was kind of flimsy. You don't really get to the love story part until the very last part of the book, and I feel like there wasn't enough building in that relationship to really make that romance believable. There were some missed opportunities because the love interest and Lydia do go way back, so I think there were some opportunities to build a better backstory, but for me it just really wasn't believable. So again, I'm new to reading romance. I'm just starting to dip my toe into this, and so I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for, but I don't think this was it. So the next book that I actually finished this week was a buddy read with my buddy Jane over at Lady Jane Books, and that is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This book is a classic piece of literature that is extremely controversial, probably the most controversial novel of the 20th century. And it is a story of passion, obsession, perversion, and madness. And our main character, Humbert Humbert, which is a pseudonym, is very interesting. I wouldn't say I was sympathetic to Humbert Humbert at all, because essentially we're reading the story of this deranged pedophile. But as a narrator, Humbert is really trying to seduce the reader just as much as he's trying to seduce the object of his obsession, this 12-year-old Lolita. Several parts in the book, we actually see the narrator address us as dear reader. So I really liked that part of the book, and I feel like the writing was just exquisite. The writing was so phenomenal and beautiful. That really kept me in the game, even though the content was extremely disturbing. I would venture a guess that those people who have given this book positive reviews are doing so because of the beautiful writing. I do think that this should make the reader think about who predators are and what they look like and what they sound like, because evil can reside in any package. I do feel like this is a very well written piece of literature, and I do feel like it's a cautionary tale, because we're dealing with a narrator and a character who is, from his own account, very handsome. He is educated, he's very intellectual, he speaks different languages, and he wouldn't necessarily raise suspicions. So I think in the 1950s that would be a very important message to get across, that evil really knows no bounds, and you can't really judge a person by a lot of those outward indicators. Now, I'm very excited to start this next book, and that is The Real Lolita, A Lost Girl, An Unthinkable Crime, and a Scandalous Masterpiece by Sarah Weinman. At the end of Lolita, this young girl is actually mentioned. This is Sally Horner, and she was 11 years old when she was kidnapped by a man claiming to be an FBI agent. And I have flipped through it, and in the notes section, it does reference a ton of passages from Lolita. So I think it was smart of Jane and I to read that one first and then go to this one. So I don't want to talk too much about these two books because Jane and I will be doing a live show discussion at some point once we finish this second one, and I'll be interested to see where that goes. So the next book that I've been reading this week is, of course, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, and this book is a big one, but we are down to pretty much a normal size novel now, so hopefully I will be able to finish this one soon. I'm enjoying it so much I almost don't want to finish it. There is a very epic cinematic quality to this book, and the characters are so well done. The landscape and the climate kind of are their own characters within this book, and it's just phenomenal. There are so many distinct characters, so much witty dialogue that I just can't say enough good things about it. So I'm really enjoying that. I also just started this one, which is Entangled Life, How Fungi Make Our World, Change Our Minds, and Shape Our Futures by Merlin Sheldrake. This is a buddy read with Katie over at Katie Reads and Rants. We are slowly making our way through this one, but this one is very interesting as well. I really do feel like it introduces a lot of interesting conversations about what intelligence is, what cognition is, and really how we look at organisms and how we kind of classify them. So I'm learning some very interesting things about fungi, and I feel like this author does a great job of interjecting little stories or things that you're familiar with just when he starts getting a little bit over your head. So he kind of brings you back into the narrative, and I really appreciate that as someone who is not super well versed in mycology. So that's what I've been reading this week. If you guys have any thoughts on any of the books that I've read, please shoot me a comment. Let me know what you're reading. And if you're a romance reader, give me a good recommendation for that. I'm really not sure what I'm looking for, but I'm willing to give a few a go. So hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.